Good morning, Online Gym School. I am so excited. Happy Friday. We made it through another week. You guys are crushing it with all of your tags, all of your posts, choreography. I actually wanted to play along with you guys, which is why I have my hair up and ready, because after this first session, we have a workout session, so I'm already ready and prepared. But before we get to that, I am so excited to introduce to you guys. It's our very first judge on the Online Gym School, and she is personally one of my favorite judges, Beth Keller. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, guys.
So Beth Keller is a JO judge, and she's an NCAA judge. So she judged me in college. She's also from Indiana, so she actually judged me in club also. She's probably judged a bunch of you. And so I am excited for her to be here because she's been to a lot of my Beam Queen boot camps. And I didn't realize this, but a lot of parents, a lot of gymnasts actually came up to me and were open and honest and told me how many people are just afraid of judges and see them as this like big, bad, scary creature. So I'm happy to have you on here, Beth, just to kind of like show that you also smile sometimes and that you're a person.
I am. I'm alive.
What about this?
Perfect. I love it. That's what the kids need to do.
So guys, if you have been watching our live videos religiously, then you know in one of the previous ones, I can't remember which video, I was giving you guys a little tip on how to get a 10th or 2 higher with the judges at your competitions. And so I told you that it's human nature when you smile at somebody that they smile back at you. And so even though it might be uncomfortable to smile at the judge, I just tested it for you. I smiled at a real life judge and she smiled back at me. And typically when people smile, they're happier. So if somebody's happier watching your gymnastics, they're probably going to give you the benefit of the doubt more than maybe they would if they were not smiling. So I know Beth is here and she's excited to give you guys a lot of tips and tricks on that. But what do you have to say about smiling, Beth? What do you think about gymnasts who smile?
We've talked about this at the Beam Queen boot camps, and I remind the girls that we see a whole lot of gymnasts all day long, and suddenly somebody comes up and they look happy to be there. Well, now I'm happy to be there. And I'm going to give a nicer score. So absolutely, I want the girls to be having a good time, and it makes me have a good time.
And people, when I say people, the gymnasts watching this are pumped for this session. And you want to know how I know that is because we got a lot of questions before your session even started. So shout out to all of you guys that are really engaged, sending in questions. I have them right here. So before we get to what you wanted to talk to them about, Beth, I wanted to ask you some of their questions. So Danielle, who is 16-year-old level 5, what did judges look for after a fall or a big mistake?
We really are happy when you fall and don't cry. That means you're still there to enjoy gymnastics. We also want you to make sure you take your full time when you fall to get your breath, get your focus back on. If you need to talk to your coach, there's no deduction for talking to your coach. So take your time, deep breath, and then get back up.
Cool. And then Kelly says, how does judging for NCAA differ than judging for optional gymnastics?
Woo-hoo. There's a whole bunch of different rules. Sam's laughing. There are different rules, and there's also a different excitement with college. So we get really into the crowds and how everyone's having fun, and I enjoy doing the college a lot because of that. But optionals, as they get older, they kind of start getting that college vibe, and they get better and better as they get into the higher level of optionals.
Cool. Riley, who's a level 4, wants to know, have you ever given out a perfect 10 in JO?
I have. I've done it a couple times.
And it wasn't to me?
It wasn't that time, no. I did it a couple times at Excel because they just, have their nice basic routines. But one of the funnest, is that the right word? One of the most fun times I ever had was giving a 10-0 at a meet out in California. And it was just a little compulsory kid, and they'd never had a 10-0 before. The judge I was with had never given a 10-0. She started crying. Then the coaches were crying. and I found out later she was like the hardest working, nicest gymnast, and everyone was so excited. So yes, I have, and it's very, very, very fun.
So what you're saying is that more often than not, judges are actually rooting for the gymnasts that are competing instead of trying to get deductions.
Oh, absolutely. I get goosebumps when I give a 10, and we want to take their picture and we want to hug them. And yes, it's really fun for us. Really fun.
Well, I know you were talking about Excel and that you gave a perfect 10 there. Ella, who's actually an Excel Gold, wants to know, how does Excel scoring compare to JO scoring, and why is the skill range in Excel so big?
They have different elements that they can do in Excel versus what they can do in JO. And again, they have different rules and deductions for Excel versus JO. So I know it's really hard for the gymnast and the parents to understand why the scores come up the way they do, but we have to go with what the rules are for each level, and they're not always exactly the same.
Right, yeah. And we have a lot of, level specific questions, but I know you have so much that you want to talk to us about. But before we jump into that, we actually had Caitlin Ohashi on here yesterday for our last session. And I know you have a special story with that. Do you mind sharing that with everybody?
Yes. And this is part of the stories with Corey. So I was judging the meet where Caitlin received her 10-0. And that was from Judge Shelley and myself. But when we were at a Bean Queen boot camp, it was after this happened, and Caitlin came down to breakfast, and Corey goes, Caitlin, do you know who that is over there? And she just looked at me, and that's the one that gave you the 10. Her face got so bright. She ran around the table and hugged me. We just had the best connection, and now I just love being around her. It was really, really fun.
That is so cool. And I mean, I guess I'm going to speak from a gymnast point of view right now. When you're competing, most of the time you're so focused, you're not really paying attention to, that the judge is there, but you're not really paying attention to who that judge is. Exactly. So it's really cool, being retired and getting to know you, Beth, and getting to know other judges, because you kind of get to see how the magic happens, what you're actually doing, how you're doing it, and what I've learned from you, Beth, is that it's actually harder than it looks to write and look. And, I think as gymnasts, a lot of times we want to not like judges because they're the ones giving us deductions and making us get a lower score and, all this stuff. But actually you guys are the ones that are helping us to achieve our goals in this sport.
Yeah, we're always trying to get connected with either the gymnast or the coaches somehow, because we just don't want to give the scores. We want to make sure you know why and how you can improve. So this has been really fun to connect with the kids.
Cool. And without further ado, I told Beth that you guys watching are a range of levels. We have, lowest level all the way up to elite. We have gymnasts from 8 different countries, I think now. Maybe it's more. I haven't checked in with the numbers this morning, but last I checked, it was 8 different countries, lots of different levels. We have Excel Kids, so just gymnastics fans in general. So she's actually worked hard to put together some tips that apply to every single level, no matter what country you're from, what level you're from, what your skill level is. So I'm really excited for her to share all of this information with you guys. So I'm going to hop out and let her take it from here. Can't wait for you guys to learn some more from Beth.
Okay, I'm ready. So we don't always get enough time at Bean Queen Boot Camp to talk about other things besides execution and amplitude. So today we're going to talk about something that the gymnasts can actually work on at home with another teammate or with their parents or with anybody that they can work with while they're doing their routines. And we're going to work on rhythm and footwork. So on the rhythm, there's Corey has a little sheet to show you, and I'm just going to go over a couple things on there. This rhythm deduction can be taken at the end or it can be taken during the routine. So we're going to start with compulsory first. So I have my little compulsory rhythm sheet. And one of the deductions is nowadays there's a 1/10 deduction for pausing for two seconds. So that would be 1 gymnastics, 2 gymnastics if you stand there and you don't go. Okay, that's on beam. Now, a couple years ago, they added, if you stand longer than that, it's 2/10 deduction. So if you get to 1 gymnastic, 2 gymnastics, 3 gymnastics, we have to take a 2/10 deduction. So when you're doing your routines and you're afraid to go for a trick, just start working on getting it a little quicker, a little smoother, so you don't lose that 1 or 2/10 deduction. So that's a good thing to practice when you're at home. And then another thing is the stopping between your tricks. So this would be, let's say for round up back handspring on floor. If you stop between the 2 back handsprings, we take 3/10. Same thing on beam. So your flip flop, we have to take the 3/10 for stopping between, or it breaks the series, and that's a whole nother rule. And what a lot of kids don't know is on your leap series, when you're supposed to do 2 jumps or 2 leaps, and this is good to remember, there's a 2/10 deduction if you stop in between them. So let's say the compulsories do straight jump. If you do straight jump, stop, and then your other one, we have to take 2/10. And then this is going to be on the flyer on your website. There's also, if you fall between, we have to take the fall and the 2/10. So here's a trick for today. If you jump back up, make sure you do the 2 tricks together. That's for your compulsories. All right, that's a rhythm. Also on your rhythm, there's a deduction for the rhythm on your tumbling. So this would be if your flip-flops are too slow. You've got to make sure those hands come up quick off the beam. So we're getting into lots of rhythm. Optionals, even more so. Okay, so here's some ideas. I want you to do your beam routines to a song because there's a deduction for rhythm to a variation of rhythm. So that means we want to see slow, fast, 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 slow, slow, fast. So if you put a song on, I want you to do this at home. And try to do your beam routine to the song. So make sure you do your slow with your arms and then quick steps and try to have fun with it, doing it to music. Let's see what else. Oh, there's also a deduction of up to 2/10 for the rhythm of connections. So this would be just kind of like your steps. Maybe you're doing a cross behind step on beam and you kind of hesitate in the middle of it. We have to take a deduction for that too. So you want things to go smoothly and not stop for connections for your major elements and for your dance elements. So that's quite a bit of rhythm to kind of remember, but I think if you go back and have fun with it, I think it's going to help. Oh, and compulsories. One last thing. This is my hint for the day for my compulsories. Scales. Ladies, I have never, ever, I've judged forever, 45 years, never taken a deduction for not holding a scale long enough, for holding a scale, too long. You know, you've heard, you're not holding your scale long enough, 1 to 2/10. But if you can get up there and say, I love gymnastics so much, that's your 2/10. So you have to sing a little song or talk to yourself or count, but it has to be longer. So that's my big tip for the day for rhythm. Trying to think. We've got one more on footwork. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And again, this is not always something we have time to work on at Beam Queen Boot Camp. So this is what I want you to do, my little hint. You're going to do your rhythm routines at home, and you're also going to do routines at home in releve. So every single step you take in your beam routine or flow routine, you have to do it on toe. And that sounds really weird, but it's a really good thing to practice because we never really have time to do that. And now that you're at home, you have time to do that. So every releve, every step has to be in releve, high on toe. Also, we're going to also have you practice your turns at home. So your turns, there's a 0.5 deduction for not holding your turn before you step down. So it's called a pause. You have to mark it. So you're going to work on your turns marking that before you step down. Also, all turns have to be in releve, compulsory and optionals, otherwise it's the 10th deduction. All right, so turns, holding scales. One other thing. There is a 10th deduction that's on the paper for not landing your straddles with your feet together. Did you guys know that? So it's up to 1/10 when you land with your feet apart. And that's, again, compulsories and optionals. So when somebody's watching you today or tomorrow, make sure they watch that you land with your feet together, that you do your turns in releve, that you're marking your turn before you come out of releve, and that you have a good rhythm on your routines.
Forgot to unmute myself. Sorry. I said, thank you, Beth. That was awesome. Especially because I feel like a lot of those deductions are what I call the sneaky deductions, where you don't really realize, and those are the ones that kind of start to add up. Like, I think that they're the ones that are easy to kind of, practice, and those detail-oriented deductions. But if you don't do those, then those are the ones that kind of sneak up, and you're like, why did I get that score? When really it was like those little deductions that you are talking about.
Exactly.
And so Corey was putting this sheet that you were talking about on the screen. So all of the gymnasts watching were following along. And I know you guys that are watching are sending in a lot of level-specific questions, so we're going to get to that. Please continue to ask all of your questions. We're going to pull them in just a moment, but I have a question for you, Beth, that applies to every level, every sort of gymnast out there, and that's just the simple salute. And I know that, by the code, you don't really judge on the salute, but from a judging perspective, how much of a difference does it make if somebody salutes and stands there and is confident with their chin up, shoulders down? Like, what impression does that give you versus somebody that's just kind of looking nervous, looks down, maybe like this, saluting like this? What does that say to you as a judge?
Yeah, we always have a big discussion on first impression and last impression at our Bean Queen boot camp. And absolutely, before I let them salute each other, we do just what you say. We pull their tummy in, we get their chin higher, we get a smile on their face, because suddenly I think, I'm happy to see you. I'm in a happy mood. I'm going to give you, a better score. So absolutely, that first impression is very, very important. And that's with your salute. So if you're glad to be there and you salute like you mean it, it's a good thing.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. And that's exactly what I want everybody else to know. And I think sometimes it's nerve-wracking for a lot of young gymnasts to, put themselves out there. They're by them. Like, we always joke around that gymnastics, because there's no offense or defense, or if you're wobbling on beam, you can't like tag in a teammate to come on like you can in basketball or soccer. And so it's nerve-wracking for these little kids to be up there, especially if they start to get wobbly or those negative thoughts start to pop in. Right. So I think it's good, whether they feel confident or not, to look the part, to look confident, because, to the judges, it can mean a whole lot.
Absolutely. I think they're going to do a good job when they look like they're ready to do a good job.
Okay, so I have some questions for you. Callie, who's a 13-year-old level 6, what can I do in my routine, aside from my skills, to increase my score on bars? Maybe some execution deductions?
Yes, and I know they work really hard on execution, but another thing they have to work on is rhythm and swinging, and that's sometimes you start working on that later after you get your skills, but bars is all about swing. So yes, if you do your squat on and sit there, I'm going to take a rhythm deduction. If you do a kip and like muscle it, that's a swinging deduction. So that's one of those things you were just talking about that they don't always know about, but there is rhythm and swinging that can really help your scores.
Cool. And just to take a couple steps back for some of our younger gymnasts that are learning and following along, what are execution deductions? What does that mean?
Execution and amplitude. I throw those words out. We throw those words out a lot. Execution would be your your bent knees and bent arms and flexed feet and all those things that aren't supposed to be there. And amplitude would be how high you tumble, how high you jump and split. So, and same thing with casting, how high you cast. So we will use execution and amplitude. And if I try to remember to use other words, I will. But yeah, those are the words we use.
Okay. April wants to know, as a judge, do you prefer it when people do higher skills with okay form or low skills with amazing form?
Absolutely. We want amazing form. You do what's required, and then different levels have different bonus things that they can do. But the gymnast that has the perfect execution will always outscore the gymnast that's doing the skills with bad form.
Okay, Beth, I don't know if you remember this about me, but my mom recently put some of my old videos on YouTube of me when I was like a level 9, level 10, and I think I was like an 11-year-old level 10 or 10-year-old level 10 or something. I was young, but I was throwing like crazy big skills, and my memory of myself was that I was, this really good level 10. So I'm watching all these videos. I crashed so much at meets. I don't know what business I had doing all these really hard skills, sloppy form. I think I really I enjoyed doing a lot of tricks, and I appreciate my coaches for, letting me have fun with the sport in that way. But looking back at myself, I'm like, dang, no wonder I didn't get good scores.
And it's true. And you do have a level a time where you learn the new skills and then they get better.
Yeah, I think I took the approach of learning all of the skills and then perfecting them. But I mean, what I tell kids at Being Queen Boot Camp, it is so much harder to fix a habit than to create a good habit right from the beginning. And it sounds like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's good.
So KK wants to know, and I think a lot of people want to know this question, what kind of things do you look for in deciding whether a connection is broken?
Okay, so let's go to beam, optional beam, and that'll help. Forward and backward acro elements, there's up to 2/10 deduction for connecting. So if you're slow or you might stop in between on a cartwheel, we have 2/10 to play with. Then the rules go, if it's a backward acro series, there is no deduction. You can't take any deduction. So I know a lot of kids don't understand that, but your flip-flop series, we can't take a rhythm deduction. It has to be connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what's the rule of thumb with the arms? Like, let's say that my arms are still moving, but they're really, really, really slow.
Nope, the body has to keep moving.
Oh, the body has to keep moving. I just learned something new. I always thought it was the arms had to keep moving.
Yeah, no, because you're standing still. It would be just like on floor if you were doing flip-flop. You don't have that time to do the arm movement, so it's supposed to be exactly the same. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And Robin, who's a level 10, wants to know, are you more lenient with concentration pauses after you see it's a really hard skill, or is it the same deduction no matter what?
It is the same deduction, but I'll tell you what, we probably, if somebody did a standing full, like Sam on beam, you might kind of forget as much deductions on the concentration pause because that was really, really good.
Yeah.
So it is the same deduction, but you can tell that it's there's a reason you're standing there so long.
Right. So you're maybe a little bit more lenient. Little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your favorite level to judge not in the NCAA?
The babies, the little level 2s and 3s, because they're so funny.
And what about your favorite event to judge?
I'm probably a bar and floor person.
Bars and floor?
Yeah. Okay, and then beam.
Come on, Beth.
I know.
Yeah, I feel like bars would be actually the most fun event to judge. It's dynamic and...
Exactly.
What deductions do you take most often, just generally?
Besides your execution and amplitude that we just talked about, the knees and the arms and stuff, I would think it would be artistry, which that would, and we'll talk about that maybe next time. That would be how you show off, how you move, how your hands are, how your chin is, all that stuff. That's probably the next major thing we would deduct on.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
And Heidi wants to know, I know, you just answered this, but maybe this is a little different of a question. Heidi wants to know, what are the most common deductions in specifically compulsory routines?
Probably amplitude. It's really hard when you are starting to learn the leaps and the jumps to remember that they have to go as high and they're worth as much as your handstands. Well, that's amplitude too, as some of your cartwheels and stuff. Those dance elements are just as important as your tumbling elements. And some of the kids forget that when they're first learning compulsories.
Gotcha. A lot of people are asking about like how you know your deductions. Like if you're at a competition and you get a score and maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, but you want to see like where your deductions are. Can your coach ask for the deductions, or how does a gymnast ever find out where they're getting deducted?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's only an official form that the coach can fill out, and that's not asking for the deductions. Usually if your coach has a nice friendship with the judges, and that's why we do these sort of things, then absolutely they're happy to help afterwards. You can always bring a judge into a gym and they can explain it to you. But yeah, they can't quite do it at a meet legally, but we're always happy to help, because why keep doing the same routine over and over again without knowing what to fix? So there are other ways to find that out, and absolutely a good idea.
I went to an amazing gym growing up. I mean, you know that, Beth. And so the more that I travel for Beam Queen Boot Camp, and the more that gymnasts that I patient with a judge, they've never, in the gym that I went to growing up, every single level we would have, a mock meet, and a judge would come in, and then after they would chat with our coaches. We would have a chat with the judge. I'm sure you came into our gym a bunch and kind of said, listen, a lot of you guys are too for your series. You got to speed it up, And so I think it's things like that before the season and after season that helps you kind of develop, okay, my problem areas are X. I'm going to try and work on all of those so that when this judge sees me again, I'm improving a lot.
And my judging friends, we all want to help you improve and change. And we're sitting there and we're talking to each other going, oh, I wish they'd come over and ask us. I wish they would bring us in. We want to make sure you get better next time. So yeah, we're wanting to give the feedback. We just all legally, we can't always give it right there.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Are there any instances when you give back a half a tenth? What causes you to give back tenths if you do?
A nice smile at the end. Maybe an 8.975, because that's just such a sad score to give. So we might give back a little bit to give a 9.0, but we will sometimes do that little half tenth here and there if the gymnast is really trying. Here's another example. When you're on beam and you fight for a fall, we definitely will try to give you back something, because the gymnast that, oh, I just did that and jumps off, it's like, that's frustrating for us too. So yeah, if we see you fighting, if we see, you're holding back the tears, if we see you, trying to correct, definitely we will give back those half tenths.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if I'm a judge and I've never taken any judges courses, I don't know, a shorthand, I don't know any of that. But if I'm going to put myself in the perspective of a judge, and a gymnast is fighting on beam to stay on, takes a bunch of steps back, and probably the deductions equal the same amount as a fall. Maybe you give a half tenth better because they went through the effort of staying on.
Absolutely. Happens all. Yep.
So everyone should really fight for their skills, is what you're saying.
Correct. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we did a vault session the other day, and most of it was on front handsprings and the foundation of vault, which, running, the hurdle, all of that is applicable no matter what vault you're doing. But we had a ton of Yurchenko questions. So just from a judging perspective, what are some of the biggest deductions that judges take on a Yurchenko entry vault?
The majority of the deductions will be tucking too soon. Instead of blocking a straight body first, they just start tucking in. The second most deductions would be chest down landing, because we can do body posture on landing plus incomplete rotation. So those would be the two main things, tucking too soon and chest down when you land.
Okay. All right. And what about, say what?
Yeah, those are two that we use a lot.
Okay. And what about landings? You know, we obviously know in college how big of a deal it is to stick those landings. You know, we're supposed to be learning that in JO gymnastics. I don't think I did a good job focusing on sticks when I was a JO gymnast. I think if I had to go back in time, I would try a little bit harder to like learn what it means to truly stick skills.
Yeah.
But, you know, what is the deductions, the different deductions for, you know, taking a one small step versus one small hop versus like two small steps and one small hop? Like what is like 10th wise, those deductions?
Yep. So just scooching your feet, we can take a half a tenth. One full step backwards is a tenth. And I tell the kids at your camp, one full step forward and bringing your feet together, that's also a tenth. So either direction that you go, it's just 1/10. And that's always a surprise to them, because they always thought if you brought your feet back together, that would be 2/10, but it's only one. And then secondly, if you have a large hop, and they usually say 3 feet, is a flat 2/10 deduction. So that's pretty big hop, but that's a pretty big deduction too. But then the most important thing that I found from your camps is the girls don't remember or haven't been taught. There's a deduction for not bringing your heels together. So if you if you land with your feet just slightly apart, you have to scoot your heels together before you step and salute the judge. And that's a half-tenth deduction. And that's true for vault, bars, and beam.
What about sticking, but your feet are too far apart? Is that what you were talking about? Like you have to get your heels together for it to count?
Yes, and if they're not able to slide together for no deduction, then look, you're going to have to move 1 foot, 1/10 deduction.
Gotcha. What about, I always felt like I got this deduction, so I'm asking from like a more personal note. What happens if it looks like your knees aren't all the way straight, but that's the straightest that they go? I hear a lot of kids also complaining to me at Beam Queen Bootcamp that that's what happens. For me, I feel like my muscles in my legs made it look like my legs weren't straight, but that was as straight as they could go.
Yeah, when your knees, let's say your back knee is behind you and you're just telling me you can't go any straighter, here's the trick. If you turn that out, that hides the bent knee, because the judge is sitting from the side and they can't see the bend. But if they turn it out, I can no longer see the bend. So if you work on turnout more, you can fake the judge out and they'll never see the bent knee. What are those other fake out tips? Do you have any others for this exclusive private Facebook group? I'm going to have to work on that one for you.
Tell us all your secrets, Beth. I mean, one of them that I always tell, Beam Queen Bootcamp girls, and this is just relating to beam, but obviously it makes sense for floor as well. I wasn't one of the most flexible gymnasts, so I felt like I always had to, fake it and, exactly what you're saying, like turn in and out and kind of play with that. But what about the upper body on leaps that maybe would distract from the actual leap position?
If you have that chest up, shoulders down, body position straight up and down. Yep. Oh, now suddenly I'm looking up and I'm looking at you and I'm like forgetting to look maybe at the knees and how high you are, because suddenly I see this nice presentation that absolutely draws my eye up.
Okay. Gymnasts that you guys are watching, if your parent is listening to this, maybe try when they're not listening so they know exactly what you're saying. But at some point today, I just want you to go up to your parents and just stand there and like maybe split your legs just a little bit, pretending like you're in a leap, but stand and make really, really nice presentation and see where your parents look. Do they look directly at your upper body and your face, or do they look down at your legs?
That's
because
good.
that's like a good experiment to see, where people are going to be looking. And the more you can keep your chest up and your chin up and your arms flat, the higher it makes it look like you go, the more split it makes it look like you go. Right, Beth?
Absolutely. That's a good idea.
Okay, so now something else that applies to most levels, maybe some compulsories don't do this quite yet, but everyone will get to that handstand position that we all know is so important in NCAA. Talk to us about the biggest deductions for the handstands and what's most important.
I have found, especially in the compulsory levels, that if they kick the handstand and they're not pushing tall. So once again, it's kind of like you just did, only upside down, the long neck, the straight arms. So then they're not going to lose the deduction for not at vertical. They're going to lose arch, probably their heads out. So if they push tall, they suddenly their stomachs pull in. They're nice and tight through their core and their heads pull down. So that's the one trick I seem to find that works really well for taking most of those deductions out. So yeah, you don't want the arch. You want to make sure you can hold it at vertical, and you want the head neutral.
Okay. What is, maybe this is, kind of a subjective question, but what is your favorite skill to judge?
I don't know.
That's
a funny question. I like, you know what? I like turns. I like turns that are unique. Mm-hmm. Backward turn, or reverse turns, double turns, turns with legs up, illusion turn, all the different kinds that you can do, especially when they're done well, like we just talked about, when they're high in releve and they hold it at the end, it's like, oh, they got this. So that might be it. Yeah, when it's done well.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
What
exactly.
Gymnast is like, oh, I love turns. There's not that many gymnasts at any level. I think it's like the most universal thing in gymnastics that everyone dislikes turns.
Right.
But Leanne wants to know, do you take deductions for untidy hair?
No, because we're only allowed to take deductions if the hair is in their face. And the reason is that way is because it's a safety thing. So we've seen some funny, messy buns, but no deductions. Only if it, could cause any problems.
What about like if your briefs are showing underneath your leotard? That was always something that I thought judges take deductions for.
If it matches the Leo or it's a neutral color, there is no deduction.
Okay. What about makeup? I'm saying regulations, but makeup rules. Like if anything's too bright or crazy or, whatever, do you take deductions?
No, once again, it's in the book. We can't. There are deductions for too many earrings, I think. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
So they can do that. Same thing with fingernail polish. There's really no deduction. Now, if it would distract us, then good. But a neutral color or something, nope, no deduction for that.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, this was so amazing, Beth, and you guys were awesome. Thank you so much for your questions. She gave us a lot of good tips on those general deductions that maybe sometimes our coaches don't have time to tell us, or maybe not, they don't know totally the answers to. And so, we just really appreciate this. And I know Corey's going to jump on here and wants to say a few words too.
Guys.
Sounds good.
Guys, are you kidding? This was like this was like the best thing ever. I learned so much. Honestly, Beth, I like try to learn as much as I can from you every time that we are together. And I think it's so interesting just to hear the array of questions that people want to know about. We were seeing a lot of questions in the comments, like really kind of a little bit more broad of like, what do you deduct for in a level 7 bar routine? Well, I think everyone needs to know at home, you deduct for the things that are not perfect, right? Like that's the part of our sport that is kind of a bummer. We're trying to strive after perfection. But at the end of the day, all of those deductions are in a book and have a specific amount that Beth is deducting for. It's not like she's just making up these numbers and being like, I don't like her ponytails. You're not? So yeah, right. She's not like, I don't like her ponytail, so I'm going to make her one little step deduction 3/10 today instead of just one, So that's the reason Sam and I and Ashley wanted to make sure that we could get some judges on here, is because, guys, judges are not scary. Beth is one of our very close friends. We travel the nation together. And every time that we're with her, we learn something new. So continue to ask questions, continue to be curious about gymnastics, because I know for gymnasts like Sam, we've talked to Kyla Ross and other people who have gotten 10s in the past. There is not a day that they go in the gym and they don't try to achieve greater than a 10. We are all trying to achieve way better, 10% better. I believe after these 6 weeks of gym school, everyone can walk back into the gym a little bit better. Do you guys agree?
Sounds perfect.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we're going to close up right here. Beth, we are so excited and very thankful that you were on Gym School. We would love to have you back.
Okay.
We'll kind of get some feedback from everyone of what more they're going to be looking for.
Perfect.
But okay, everyone say goodbye to Beth. We're going to take her down just for a second, but Beth, we're going to still hear you.
Bye, Beth.
So we have one more announcement.
All right.
So
good luck.
Bye, Beth. Okay, guys, Sam and I are on here just to finish up real quick. We have something for you. We are getting ready at 11:30 Pacific time. Sam, I don't know. Are you ready?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I'm going to change my mental attitude because I woke up a little sleepy this morning, but now I'm better. I have a good attitude. I just had a great conversation with my good friend Beth, my other good friend Corey, and I called Bridget this morning, and I'm really just like pumped up for this workout, and I think it's going to be hard, so I'm nervous.
Yes. Okay. I came back on here, which is not normal. We don't normally do this at the end of gym school. I'm on here because specifically I want you to go and grab your mom, grab your dad, grab your brother, your other siblings, whoever's not watching gym school right now. Maybe even your cat can come, because Bridget has a challenge for us. So you see it up there, bright green. Get ready for a challenge. We got a full body workout challenge that is coming for you. Myself, Sam, Ashley's going to be doing it on the live in the next session. We have friends joining in. Get everyone downstairs at 11:30. We have a challenge.
Also, I'm jumping in, Corey, but also because it's the perfect timing, because we're celebrating not just the fact that it's Friday, but I think it's kind of perfect timing because we haven't voiced this to you guys, but our goal is to get 2,000 or more gymnasts in this private Facebook community. We just hit 1,500, and it's only been, this is wrapping up 2 weeks. So I think this Bridget challenge is kind of like a celebration of everything that you guys have been doing. So if there's any way that you guys can Instagram us and say that you're excited for the challenge, and maybe text one of your friends that aren't in the group, tell them to join before this challenge so we can all do it together. I think the more the merrier in this scenario, because I think we're stronger the more people we have together, and it makes it a little less scary. So I'll be doing the workout, Corey's going to be doing the workout, Ashley's going to be doing the workout, and Bridget's going to be leading us and encouraging us. So it's going to be so fun.
Okay, I can't wait. I got to go hydrate. Everyone make sure you drink some water, get a little bit of a little snack that Nicole suggested, gymnast nutritionist Nicole suggested to us last week or earlier this week. It seems like forever ago. And we will see you at 11:30 for a full body workout challenge. We'll see you guys soon.